Welcome to Seekers of the Malediction, your source for discussion, tips, and strategy in our favorite miniatures card game, Malediction. As ever, we are a competitive podcast, and so our opinions and views are going to be filtered through that lens. I am Zach. This is Pat. Why don't you take it away, Pat?
Yeah, so we're interrupting our regular scheduled programming. We are have yet to do the multicolor card review, but this past weekend we had something super fun happen. We got the first ever in-person Malediction tournament. We had 16 participants register. It was out of Valhalla Hobby in Verona, Wisconsin. Um, and yeah, unfortunately, there was two late drops, one due to sickness, and then another one I'm not quite sure. But we ended up with 14 people, which is pretty darn good for a game that hasn't even released yet in terms of the game found back. It's incredible that we got 14 people to play pretty much out of convention minis that they bought at Adepticon.
I was going to say maybe this is a good moment to give a shout out to all those that um, lent boxes, lent cards, lent minis, lent cardboard sandies to their friends, whether they were there and played maybe an off color than what they expected so that their friends could play too, or weren't able to make the event even if they had wanted to, and so had lent out cards and standees and minis and everything to friends so that they could play. It was pretty cool. There was many people who were not at the event who contributed to other people being able to play at the event, which was
Yeah.
which was very cool, and was a great sort of community moment to even kick off the event.
Yeah, I personally need to thank Brimmer, who lent me minis. Otherwise, I'd been stuck playing Ingor probably because Zach snatched up his own Londril stuff. So if I had to borrow from you, I would have probably been playing Ingor. But yeah, due to him, we were both able to play Londril. One last comment: we just had people from Madison, the Milwaukee area, which is very large. I think we had someone from East Troy, which is kind of like Kenosha, Racine, in between those two areas. And then we had a couple people all the way out for Minnesota, and the only reason why they came is because the day before there was a Warcry tournament. So they stuck around for the Malediction tournament then the following day,
Oh,
which is
cool.
awesome.
I
And I
didn't even
think,
know that.
yeah, and I think that they're going to try to. I heard him talking to. It's the Salty Sea, and I heard him talking to Oliver, who said, "Hey, if you guys plan another Malediction event, let's make sure we do it off of the Warcry because they might even pull larger numbers from the Minnesota crowd to come down. So that'd be cool." Yes. So yeah, we both played in it. We both ended up taking Londril. I guess, do you want to, Zach, comment on anything with the Londril list? Or we do, I think, plan to do a deck review video in the future where we will go in depth on it more and talk a lot about it. But I guess, yeah, did you have anything you wanted to get out beforehand?
Well, so we played the same list, and in part it was a mixture of thinking that the list is really good. Once you kind of have its play pattern down to it's very fun. It plays very similar to um, maybe a type of control that you would see in a TCG. I mean, its colors are blue and white, and Malediction, and it does kind of feel like a blue and white control deck from other games. Um, and so we played the same list for a few reasons, and I think it's good to point them out. And that is, one, we both enjoy the list. Two, we do both think it's very good, which we'll probably talk about some. And three, we wanted to see how that particular deck did into a number of different lists and matchups, and how other lists and matchups dealt with this particular list. And we felt that us both playing it, having effectively, 8 rounds of other people playing into the list would give us some really cool insight into the list itself. And so that was the reasoning, I think, behind us both playing the same list. Um, and, as we'll talk about, it's a strong list. We'll probably, yeah, have a separate tech video about it at some point, where we'll really dive in depth into it.
Yeah. And I think that, just a little bit of insight, this list was really a labor of love, right? I think that we were on to Landrio from one of the first decks we created, right? And
Mhm.
there's components of there. The list is largely based around putting some of the best protection units in the game and just distributing damage. And that core concept had been there ever since the very beginning, right?
Yep.
And I think we played it, quite a bit in TTS games and stuff. We didn't play it. Neither of us played it in the April TTS tournament. I think that was because the game was so fresh. We wanted to try other ideas. Like we knew that we had
Yeah.
something here, but we're like, well, we need to explore other aspects of the game. But I think both of us knew we would end up on Londril eventually, just based on what we were seeing. And we also got a taste of like seeing different people's ideas in the TTS tournament. But I was super excited for this just because like the people that play on TTS and then you and me, like I think other than that tournament, you're the only person I played, or you are. I am the only person you have played on TTS, right? So like I feel like a lot
Mhm.
of our ideas are kind of in siloed, and it was great to get out there and just kind of see what other people have discovered about the game and kind of validate our opinions and beliefs versus theirs and stuff, and just kind of that was the first like intersect of different people's viewpoints on the game and how it kind of shook out. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's true, and I don't know if we're gonna go into the list fully right now, if that's what wanted to
no.
do. So I think just generally, the list it's got 10 units, it's got 20 spells, it has a sideboard with additional units and spells, so that ratio can change depending on the matchup. But really the sort of core concept of this Laundrio list is you're playing a ton of the spells that trigger her legacy, damage prevention spells, counter spells. You have redirects in the sideboard. And then from there, it's really dropping down very powerful protection units that can spread damage very well across essentially your whole board because of the way protection chaining works. And that allows you to really protect and keep your units alive in our experience for essentially the whole game, every game. Um, and it's all sort of bolstered on the backs of um, the amazing Valkyrist priest, whose extra echo and healing is incredibly potent.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the general breakdown of the list, and like we said, we'll have a future video going deeper into it.
Yep. I'll just kind of say if people are interested, I can put it in the description of the show notes. Zach and I both have our own separate Cardi.io forums. I think yours is Z Peters, mine is Free Kittens 03, which is my normal like Discord in-game handle name. But I created a separate Seekers of the Malediction one. I have the Strange Brew in there, the deck that I did a couple of weeks ago. And then I put this one, and I think you came up with the name of it or thought of it, but I think we're going to be calling this the deck, in homage to Magic the Gathering, the first ever blue-white control deck that was ever made. So I think that's kind of the name we'll be referring to it as, the quote unquote deck. Um, but yeah, you did a great job summarizing. I think the other thing is if people go and grab it, note that it plays unlike any other list, right? If people are grabbing it and saying, "Oh, this deck is supposed to be amazing," right, and you play it just like anything else, this list has a very specific play pattern, that you just want to castle. Like you pretty much sit there, you grab one relic. If you can get two, great, but you only need one. To hold on,
Mhm.
and then you just acquire resources and wait for your opponent to come to you. So that and
Yeah, the deck is built around the theory, and you'll hear about my round one game where I broke from the theory and was punished for it. So the deck is built around the theory that to win the game, your opponent must kill something of yours and or get all four relics. So if you can take one relic, stand back and just build up your control network with the deck, however long your opponent gives you, basically, for
Mhm.
them to come to you to win that or to take that win condition is just gravy for this deck.
Yep.
And eventually the deck can push out and make aggressive moves, but it's going to build up and build up and build up, and it does it better than Potentially any other deck, in terms of that sort of slow control plod along. And that's the theory. Your opponent cannot win without killing something of yours or taking all four relics. So take one relic and just castle, build up, and wait.
Yep. So we'll hop into that. Before we begin, I just want to give a huge shout out to Oliver, who was the tournament organizer. He ran a super smooth, on time, clean event. So big props to him. You know, already talking about when we can do the next one. It seemed like everyone really enjoyed himself. I would love to give him the opportunity, so I extended mine and yours, Zach. I hope you're okay TOing an event just to give him the
Mhm.
opportunity to play. But yeah, he just everything was on time and smooth, and we did run 70-minute rounds. So
I was going to
even
bring that
though,
up. Yeah,
yeah, even though we're castling and waiting for them to come, only one of my games went to time. But like
same.
you know, the first three rounds, if nothing's happening, no attacks are happening. Like usually the list is established and you have a firm threshold by turn three, and you can begin advancing then if they refuse to come to you. But I think that's to their detriment if they don't come
Yeah.
into you.
Yeah, I think Oliver and Valhalla, ran a great event. It was on time throughout the day. It was very smooth. We did, as Pat said, 70-minute rounds. And honestly, the round timer and how long sort of an event round for Malediction should be was an unknown going into this event. I mean, it was something that our community needed to guess at or come up with based on sort of the data that we had. And Oliver came up with, 70-minute rounds is what he thought was acceptable. And I thought 70 minutes was great.
Yeah,
Um, Again, yeah, I mean, we were talking about how slow this deck is. You certainly do need to be mindful of the clock because there are, tiebreakers at the end of time in a round, and you need to be prepared to win on those, tiebreakers if need be, or those end of round um, win conditions if need be. But 70 minutes felt great. I had one game go to time. We probably could have sped it up a little bit. And truthfully, we did dice down for this event, meaning when the time ended, it was done. There are potentially end of round procedures for malediction. We'll see in other events, we'll see where you complete the round that you're playing. And in truth, my game that went to time was about 10 seconds from that round ending and me just claiming the last relic and winning anyway. So, um, yeah, it was 70 minutes felt great.
yeah, I would agree. I think the one caveat I've heard murmurings of going down, like all the Thunderstep players ended at their games in like 30 minutes, which I think, Ben was there, who was the winner of the April TTS tournament. He was playing Thundersteps again. I'd look over and he's like just watching my game. I'm like, dude, it's been like 25 minutes. He's like, yeah, I don't know. You either win or you lose fast. So I think he had a
Yeah,
pretty
yeah. I
good
mean,
day though.
depending on
So
what you're playing, of course, right? It's the joy of aggro is you
yeah.
get a break after every round, basically.
Yep. And I think Oliver is gonna I don't know if he's sending it privately to Loop, but I think he was compiling like a bunch of data essentially from the event. So if he does make
Yeah,
that public and post it on the Discord, I'd love to see what like the average round time was. Because I think that we're
yeah.
on one extreme end, and then there's like obviously the Thundercept players on the other extreme.
Right, right. Which I think is a pretty normal sort of aggro versus control expectation.
Yep. So let's get into it. Round one kicked off. I'll go first. So I played Andrew with Sigrith. He was Ben B Timmy's uh, counterpart. So they went to Adepticon together, and they bought all four faction boxes. And Andrew took the Conclave and Shattered Throne, and Ben took Legion and Primal. So I was playing his other half essentially. um, but yeah, he had a couple of games in on TTS and at the Adepticon, but I think he was still fairly new. Um, Something I want to point out, I guess this is probably a good time to do it, is just some useful tools throughout the tournament that I found. I use these from Kill Team, and you'll see this in the videos that I recorded and upload. So this is a measuring widget. It has 1 inch here, 3 inches here, and then 2 inches on this side. This is like pretty much what I used for the majority of the game, just checking things nearby, putting terrain out, and just even making like small movements. And then this is the other one. It's just a 6 inch range stick that's like notched along the way, again from Kill Team. And most of my stuff moves 6 or shoots 6 or whatever. So this was really handful for me. And then the other thing I did is I was borrowing stuff, but I had played with the trackers that come in the loot box. I do not like them. They spin way too easily. They lose track, and I am from like an old school MTG player where I keep track of my. I like to keep track of my opponent's stuff too. So I used a notebook. Here's actually like from the events. So you can see here I just created a you versus me. And I'm keeping track of essentially my echo and mastery as well as my opponents and the turnaround all on pen and paper. I found this much faster than doing dials or spin down dice or any other way to keep track of your echo and mastery. So that's just like a hot tip that I think I would share. Um, yeah, and then the last thing going into this is I kind of got thrown through a loop for the first game because when you play on TTS, the 2D terrain that we use is always one way, and it's showing the red that like blocked out terrain. And I place it down, and then I begin playing my game, and I realize that the large piece of conclave terrain, which is very has some unique, interesting points that I guess I'll share. So I guess let me interrupt. And the conclave terrain is very unique in that it has two specific choke points for large base models. So this is like the Thunder Steps or the very large ones. There is what I'll call a window, which the Thunder Steps or a large base cannot get through. And then opposite of the window on the other side of the pillar, between the pillar and a wall, there is another path that a large base model can get through. So if you are trying to come through the conclave terrain, you can only go one path essentially to get them. And spoilers, that terrain setup is very critical for me whenever I can get that piece because I know I'm going to funnel your big things, especially Thunder Steps, through that one path. But the in-person
I
2D
think you
terrain
can,
is
yeah, I think if people want to see that in action too, my round one from the TTS April tournament, which is up on our channel,
sure.
has that a highlight of sort of that Thundercepts not being able to go through that window, and utilizing that choke point. So
Yep. And well, what I guess I realized is that the terrain in TTS does not match the terrain. It's like flipped.
it's a
Uh,
mirror,
it's
yeah.
yeah, it's mirrored, and I didn't realize that. And I placed it, and I was like, "Oh, weird." I did not. I expected this window to be on the other side. It didn't cause me a loss, but then what I realized is I flipped the terrain over, and there's like a red marked out that's like very definitive, and then like the more colorful art that's like a little bit more up to interpretation right side. And when you flip it, you get the correct orientation, which is like what is on TTS. So um, that's like a kind of a competitive advantage here where you can actually flip the 2D terrain and you can get a different mirrored side, a layout, which can be quite useful for placing terrain. I'm sure in the future we'll do like a super in-depth terrain placement, terrain review, but that is just something I noticed in this game in person that holy crap, you can flip this 2D terrain, which you cannot obviously do in 3D terrain. So you're stuck with like one orientation. Um, yeah, but
Have we
moving
ever
on,
tried to flip it in TTS? I wonder.
I wonder if it would be the same, yeah, as well. But yeah, to summarize this round one, I drew the nuts, as the kids would say. I drew three priests and an angel opener. So I quickly got down, and first turn I gained 9 echo, which seems pretty good. Angel went off, grabbed a relic, and then one of the priests walked up and grabbed the other relic. Landriel came down turn two, and that's pretty much all she wrote. I eventually found a guardian that protected Landriel. I think he made the mistake, and we kind of talked about it after the game. He split his forces, so Sigrith went off to go fight Landriel, and a Warfront commander went off to go tie up the Angel, and the Angel had a relic, and the Warfront commander did not. So I was like, great, the Angel will just kill this thing by itself, and then go back and meet up with Landriel. But that's when I learned how much Sigrith can keep a model alive just by burning cards through hand. I mean, he played bull shields and discarded a bunch, and like my angel was actually dying at one point, and this thing was at full health. So I was like, "What the heck is going on?" But he was burning the card, saving that instead of Sigrith, which I think I don't know to his advantage. Sigrith had Reaper on her, so like it was really hard to get the full protection off on my attacks on Landriel because I'm doing when I hit I'm doing 7. If I glance I'm doing 5. So it's like I don't know. It's not easy to just discard a card and then fully protect it, right? So yeah, eventually I killed Sigrith and the commander, and then all he had was the knight left because he was burning cards left and right for shields. and then I demanifested the knight like a bully, and then scooped up all four relics and won with like 50 some mastery. So that was pretty much summarizing my first game. How about you?
My first game was against John, who's a Madison local. He just won the Madison local league, being undefeated with Vorendal. He was playing Vorendal today, or on the day of the event. And he plays it on the mire terrain using ambush with prowlers and cloaks and things, to really have an aggressive start. Um, Whether that be picking up relics aggressively early or deploying out. Now, against me, he actually did deploy in his deployment zone and then spread out from there. Um, I opened an opening hand with no units. I did have a rewrite and a convoke in that hand, and I'll say, learning from a later round in the event and how poorly sort of this round felt for me, I mulliganed in this round one to try and search for a unit, a single unit at least. Um, and I got it in the mulligan, but I don't think that you need to do that with this list. I think that you just stick it out with the Convoke and rewrite Destiny and things like that, and you're actually better off doing something like that as opposed to losing the card. And so here I did mulligan down to six, which eventually becomes five with the bid. I had a shield mage, which I put out. I eventually got a duplicate, which was able to get me another shield mage. But from there, I was actually pretty hard up for units throughout this game. It was pretty difficult. The only other unit that I saw was a Warden Lancer later in the game. And in this list or in this round too, I think highlighted why the Landriel control list wants to stay back, castle up, build its resources, and that's how it plays. I pushed to the middle, so the middle had the large mire terrain piece with a relic inside of it. I had already claimed a single relic in the large conclave piece, which was sort of on the lower half of my deployment edge. Um, and I didn't need necessarily to push into that center terrain. I did for a few reasons. In part, it was a way to avoid um, from some units early charges by utilizing the obscuring terrain. And so early charges from the Vorendal list in this instance was actually pretty problematic as they had ambush. He actually was eventually able to get the additional damage relics, things like that. It was, I mean, they hit hard. He had an early turn one unmake. He had a turn two death's call. He had just a lot of damage on the board. And so my pushing to that middle before I had really built up the resources to deal with that much damage was my eventual downfall. So going into the last round, second to last turn of that game, I did a rewrite Destiny, and the top was two True Stone Exemplars. I had known that if John was going to attack my Landriel, who was low on health, didn't have protection units nearby anymore, they had been taken out, that I needed a shield of some kind from my deck to keep her around for one more round and potentially squeak out a win. So I bottomed the two True Stone Exemplars, had a Warden Lancer run across the board and grab a relic, and the way we were sitting at something like 29 to 34, something like that. So I'm at 29, he's at 34 mastery. And I knew if Landriel could hold out, kill one of his lower defense, like a Prowler relic holders, have the game. So I bought him the two exemplars, go to look for a shield with some legacy card plays during the turn, and move, he ends up not attacking Landriel, which was kind of a pro play on his part. He just left her be and did other sort of more beneficial maneuvers for himself. I drew my two cards for the last turn. Neither were a protection unit, and Landriel went down that turn. I lost the relic that was on her, and he ended up taking the game at 44-19.
Yep.
Um, I think it was. I mean, it was a really good. He played great. Really knows his list. He's played a lot of Vorendal. It really shows. Um, and I think for myself, it was really a warm up round. Unfortunately, I think as our channel short has said, I had like two games on this list going into the event. It would have been nice to have a few extras. I think I would have maybe seen my mistakes better in this round. But yeah, don't be overly anxious with the Landrio list. Don't be overly aggressive. Stay back, build up
Hmm.
your resources, do it that way. And I think if I would have done that, or maybe would have made some better top or bottoming choices with the legacy, this round could have definitely gone a different way for me. But I did lose that round one, 44-19.
All right. Yeah, I remember finishing my game, looking over, and I saw like Landry in the middle of the list and a Warden on his side of the table, and I'll be like, well, that's not how you play this list. So I was like, what the
And in
hell is
part,
going
yeah,
on
and in
over
part
there?
it was a lot of damage control at that point, right? It was that
Yeah,
Warden was shooting out there as sort of a last ditch effort to pull out
yeah,
40 mastery right at the end. So
yeah. Yeah, and to hit on it, 10 units in the deck feels like a lot, like very little, right? Like you're going to blank on units all the time. It is actually only a 96.4%. It's a 96.4% chance to hit one unit in your hand. And that's kind of how I felt all you need because it I feel like the one unit is really just the most critical to get activations because then you get two activations to trigger convoke and rewrite, and start digging for the later turns.
mhm,
Whereas
mhm.
just like if you only have Landru out there, you only can, like you said, your opening hand you had to convoke and rewrite. You had to pick one. You probably would have done convoke, gotten the priest, and like
Well, we'll go through what I would have done because I got the same opener in a later round, so we'll get
well,
there.
well, my point is, I think, especially against Vorendell, although it is a little bit scary if they're playing Mire terrain, because they could just be on you turn one, right? Like charging.
Mhm.
So like I understand the mulligan there, but typically when I've played Vorendell, I feel like he's speed five. A lot of the skeletons can't get there that fast, and like and swarm you really that well. So like I feel like you had the time. But yeah, seeing the Mire terrain and knowing he's probably playing the item that gives you ambush and the ambusher, other guys of Sestinar, I can understand the reason for that mulligan. Yeah, so we'll move on to round two. Um, I played Tim, who is another, or is a Madison person as well. He was playing Thundersteps. Um, let's see. In this game, I had Exemplar and Convoke in hand and nothing else. Exemplar was my only unit. He played 5 units. I think it was Thundersteps, Terric Beast, Shaman, Mauler, and a Raider. And then boot. I can't remember if he had boots or not on it, but he did a pretty good job attacking Landrill with the husk placement, train and husk placement more than any other seeker. I feel like is very critical. Little insight, Landrill, you are trying to put husks on the very edges of the board because even if you don't like one, they make it more safer for you to pick them up, but two, then your opponent is having to go to the edges of the board to pick them up, and then it takes longer for them to get to you, which is exactly what happened. He moved Thundersteps round one to one of the ones on the far edge, and it took Thundersteps 3 turns to get to me, which is exactly what I wanted. But he did place one dead center of the board, and I found that's usually the best thing to do against Landriel, so that way you can pick it up on your way to go attack her, right? It was favoring what eventually was my board edge side, so I did have the exemplar grab one of them, cast the convoke in the blue terrain, and then the other one, I positioned Landrill to maybe get. I knew he had the Terric Beast and he could easily run to contest it, but sometimes you just got to hope your opponent makes a mistake. But also, if a Terric Beast attacks Landrill, like that's the most ideal thing because a majority of the time the dog glances and then Landrill hits the dog for 5 damage and then ends up like next turn just like hitting it again, killing it, and walking away, right?
Yeah.
So I felt like it was risk free for me to go and do that. Um, but yeah, let's see, yeah. Other than that, like I kind of mentioned, the knockbacks I knew whenever we play Thundersteps, one, your defenses are pretty high, and Thundersteps, other than himself, I feel like has relatively weak attack stacks. So the knockbacks aren't consistent in getting off, but you still need to guard against it. So I knew I needed to start like pyramiding up my guys so that if you hit my front line, they just bump into their back line and nothing goes anywhere to break apart the protection bubble, essentially. Um, but I think he kind of made the mistake of beginning to charge things in one at a time before Thundersteps got there. In terms of like I said, it took Thundersteps first turn he picks up the relic, second turn he runs into position, and then third turn he eventually can charge. And before that, he just started running the Raider in and then a Mauler in, and I just kind of killed things one. Like turn two, I killed the Raider. Turn three, the Mauler got there first. I killed that, and then Thundersteps. You know what I mean? It just kind of came in too
Mhm.
slow instead of taking a turn to group up and then apply pressure at the whole time. This game, more than any other, I think was closest to popping the bubble. I didn't get a lot of shields. I don't recall nothing like crazy healing. I just really had to rely on displacing the damage. And Thundersteps does the most damage out of anyone. He did a really heads up play where he grabbed Reliquary early on with Thundersteps, and then once Londriel started attacking him in melee, the first glance that or the first attack that happened, which what ended up being a glance, which was even bonus for him, he swapped it to the retaliation relic, which gives him counterattack and riposte. So that he's hitting back Londriel, and he's berserked at this time. So that's 9 damage every time I hit him coming in. But I just I knew I had to get him off the board, so I just had to, you know, essentially take 18 damage and get through it to kill him, which is what I eventually did. And then the big thing here is I made a mistake tracking mastery. When I killed that raider, I did end up picking up a relic, but this was like the last activation of the round, so I kind of like scored the points for the raider, but I forgot to score the points for the relic. And at the end of the game, when we're going through just kind of auditing our mastery, I realized I had way more than I should have, and then we realized that the game should have ended one round earlier when I killed Thundersteps, essentially. But after I killed Thundersteps, we played out another round, and it's still the same conclusion. So in the game, we played out an extra round, but when we scored what I should like when the game should have ended essentially. Um, yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes what I had in my notes. What about your round two?
My round two was also against Thundersteps. So I played Ian. They are a local Madison player as well, I think, with a lot of games under their belt. And this round really just went super well for me, frankly. It was kind of the ideal opener, right? Throughout the game, I had two priests, I had a guardian, I had herald, I had a shield mage at one point. Laundrill's on the board, and the engine just worked. So the husks were not super favorably placed for anyone, which was great for Laundrill. I got my one, I castled up. Ian had to come to me. And Thunder Steps, honestly, I mean, he does a ton of damage, but he's squishy. He's 12 defense. And I don't remember honestly who got what relics at this point. I wish I would have taken a little better notes for that round, but um regardless, the way it came was there was waves of, a raider, a shaman, thundersteps, a few other things, and I just essentially took them all out. He couldn't break the castle. I ended up not losing any units. And at the end, the last turn of the game, I did claim all four relics and wiped the board and ended up at 69-0 for that win.
Yeah, yeah. I will say that I found the hardest part about fighting Thundersteps is actually not proccing his Berserk because he just takes damage so much. Where like sometimes I'll hit him and I'll be like, I really don't want to do 5 to him here. I'd love to do 3, leave him on like 11, and then I'll go with like I'll wait for him
It's
to activate or
really,
something and then go and
yeah,
finish him
it
off.
can really be problematic. Um, the ideal is obviously you do a little bit of damage to Thundersteps, a decent amount,
Hmm.
and then you swiftly kind of just take him down to zero, right
Yep.
past berserking. In this one, he did berserk. He was doing a bunch of extra damage, and in part because I did roll a crit when shooting in on him with Montreal and did 8 instead of 5, which brought him down into berserking range. Um, I think there was some interesting plays by Ian too, if I remember correctly, in terms of switching out relics where he or where they took I think it was they essentially went down with I think Fang of the Damned to get into berserking range and then did their damage and then healed back up or something like that. And it was, I think they had switched out Reliquary off Thunder Steps to get Thing of the Damned and do this whole play with Thunder Steps. It was super interesting to basically bring your own Thunder Steps down into berserking territory, do the extra damage,
Hmm.
heal back up, and kind of keep them
Sure.
running. So, oh, it was
Yeah,
cool. But
that's
yeah,
pretty
it
good.
was, unfortunately for Ian, it was kind of a perfect storm in terms of the Londriel deck for me that round. So,
Yeah. I did hear there was proper use of the Blood Feast Raptor in this game. Uh,
I yeah. So at one point, Ian bid the Raptor as for initiative, and I jokingly said, "Oh, yeah, right where he belongs." That Raptor right in the exiled from play zone after being bid, and yeah, that was a good moment. It
we
was
say
pretty
it with
funny.
with, with,
So
with absolute love for the Blood Feast Raptor, but yeah,
yeah,
I think it was interesting. Just a little side tangent. Dan kind of was poking my brain and just getting some information on the Discord, and I was talking about like what feels strong, and I've noticed that defense abilities just are I favor way more than offense abilities, and I think that is like to the definition why I don't like the Blood Feast Raptors, just because there's no defense ability. It's all offense, so it's like it's just hard to keep them around. I think it's a great piece and fun, but from a competitive standpoint, I like my models that stay on the table a little bit longer. I think. Yeah, so we had a quick lunch break. Everyone got back. I'm 2-0 at this point. You're 1-1. My round three opponent is other Zach. There was another Zach there, so he is now deemed other Zach for the remainder of our lives. He's playing Polynor, which is on paper. We've been after we made the list. Zach and I's natural reaction is, okay, what beats this list, right? And then how do we start sideboarding against it? And we never got to play it. I kept on trying to find time to play Zach. He would play Londra, I'd play Polynor. We just never got to it. But I do think Polynor might have the best shot into it, so I was kind of scared going into this. This is the only time I sideboarded the entire event. I put in 2 of the shifting winds to redirect attacks, as well as the reinforced plate, which gives +2 defense, which is great on Landriel, and then an additional +2 against range. So I think that just putting that, even if Landriel doesn't get it, anyone that gets it, I just think that it helps do glances, and I think glancing is a big point of damage mitigation, right? Which is what the whole point of the list is trying to do. Um, I got a single unit with some rewrites, I think. I don't even think I hit a convoke, but I kept it. It was a shield mage. He placed Huss very far on the board edges, which I was comfortable with because I knew I'd have plenty of time to set up. And then after the first round or two, I realized he thought he was trying to play the same game as Landrill, right? So he set up a really big gun line. He got Veil Piercer on Polynor, so he's hitting at 6-4, or hitting at 6, glancing at 5. Uh, Putting a bunch of bodyguard shield mages, the big belly guys, getting other guns in there, artillerists, right? And he just pretty much sat there and said, "You come to me," which I think is a mistake because it allowed me to. It took me a full 3 turns to get out a shield mage, an exemplar, and a priest. So I had 4 units by turn 3, and I felt good then pushing forward. But also he was harassing me the whole time with like twin flames and TKing my models off of the relic for like 2 turns in a row. So it actually took me 3 turns to grab that second relic. But then once I got completely set up, I just had all the answers. I started, a lot of people will say like, oh, if you make the Landrio player come to you, you have to break up the brick, and then it's well, no, you could just leapfrog it forward. So like what I did is I took the exemplar first. It has bonus defense against range. I moved it up and out of line of sight of pretty much anything, so they would have to move or cast like stride to get any shots at him. So he had one round, and he's also holding Aegis right now because that's the relic I picked up for him, where they can shoot him. They're not going to one round an exemplar with shields and his defenses and everything like that. And then from there, you just start moving all the other pieces up to him, and you build the wall up again. So that's essentially what I did. I didn't end up coming into him. Actually, this round and last round, every round but the first round, I hit duplicate on Shield Mage, which is so ridiculously strong. Putting down another unit with resistance 1, 12 HP, just another gun. So yeah, he gave me too many times. I dug through a bunch of cards in my deck. I think Ridiculous Guard went off for like +8 Echo at one point. It's just, yeah, I had all the answers. I had to manifest. I didn't even end up casting to manifest because I didn't really need it. But we talked about the clock. This is the one game that I had go to time, and the one I think 70 minutes is still good. I'm curious about uh, Oliver put the clock on a TV and everyone could see it. And well, so my opponent at this round would have to turn around to check it. For me, it was right in my face. I just look up and I see the clock. So I knew after waiting like 4 rounds, we had like after the first 3 rounds where nobody did anything. I think we had like 35, maybe 40 minutes left. And I knew once we get into it, start rolling dice because at this point we each have like, you know, I think there's like 10 units on the board at this point. It's just going to take a while, right? So I already am planning to play for face down, for dice down, and so I start picking off all the little stuff instead of trying to like attack a shield mage or Polynor and
Yep.
stuff because I'm like I'm just gonna eke out a couple of echo. I'm not gonna drop my mastery, and I'm not gonna let anything die, and that's how I'm gonna win, right? Um, so I'd be curious of like seeing that time and stuff, and just maybe this is just good players like would be able to mentally, but like in other games I have had the clock hidden so people can't see it, and like there's a variable amount of time so you can't really game the dice down scenario, right? And like time it perfectly where I make my last attack and I demanifest something and then pick up, you know what I mean, or something like that. I don't know. I think being aware of the rules and everyone playing by the rules makes it even. So I don't know. I just kind of thoughts on what I'm trying to think on of like what do I think about the dice down scenario and the clock
I'm
management and
fine.
everything like
Yeah,
that.
I'm fine with dice down or complete the round either. Um, I am highly, highly, highly in favor of an open, obvious public clock. I think hidden clocks, variable time, time announcements but not everyone knowing, what the clock's actually saying are bunk. I think they're terrible ideas from past games that I gladly throw by the wayside.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that is exactly it. It's just all the other games I've had. So I'm like, this feels weird, but like I'm like, does
Yeah,
it? Like
no,
I kind of like.
I thought
It
the way
felt
Oliver
wrong
ran
though
it
that I
is
could game
exactly
it.
how
It felt wrong that I could game it that much, but maybe that is the correct way to do it. You know what I mean? It just felt different to me in
I
this
think.
situation.
No, I think it is. I think it should absolutely be part of the game. I think it's part of competitive gameplay, and I think in you know, uh, probably other games too, but certainly Malediction, where you have this um, technically inability to complete the win condition without engaging your opponent in some way, forcing that through end of round tiebreakers and a clock that is obvious to everyone is great. Right? If you're Londro and you only grabbed one relic and your opponent grabbed three and you see that clock ticking down, you need to get out there. You need to do something because they have more mastery, they have more relics. They will win the round if you just sit back and do nothing and durdle.
Yeah.
Um, and similarly, yeah, I mean, it sparks engaging. I'll say so. My round three also against Polinar, a different person. His name's Jake. Um, and he was playing Polinar on Flesh Gardens. It was a knockback list. I guess let's begin. I opened my opening hand again with no unit. I did have a convoke, I did have a rewrite. I kept it this time. I felt really not great about um how the cards played out in the round one Vorndal game. So I kept this hand, brought in Laundrill turn one, convoked for a priest, played the priest turn two, played a rewrite destiny, and it was off to the races. Um, Jake played Polynor similar to the way Zach played Polynor against you. Not quite as gunliney castling, but a little bit of a slower approach, building up resources. He had a Guardian out. He had a big belly. He had Weaver, some gargoyles, etc. However, he made one misplay where he put an artillerist who had a relic too close that I was able to maneuver and get some shots off with Longio and kill it. Well, then he was down a relic. I was able to eventually draw into a herald who flew over, picked up that relic. And then that herald ended up being, truthfully, and this is an interesting play, I suppose, for the Longio list, but the herald ended up being more of an annoyance piece. So he was using gargoyles to fly in and get relics that he had placed on the flesh gardens. And I was literally just using the herald to contest these like off the beaten path relics that he wanted to get with gargoyles because she flies also. And the gargoyles literally had no chance
Yeah.
of wiping her off the board. And so I was kind of controlling this outside, the main part of the game plays, and then had my brick of Laundriel and I had an exemplar and a shield mage and a priest and Laundriel, and that was sort of enough to do whatever I wanted to do. I was cycling through, I was gaining a bunch of echo, I had all the cards that I needed, counter spells at the right time, etc. Um, and I just wore him down. And I'll say similarly to your game, I was mindful of the clock. My game did go to time this round, though I was about 10 seconds from winning it anyway, because I would have had the last relic needed. But I very consciously, when I saw that, he had two relics, one was up for, contest, and I had one. I very consciously made an effort to grab that second relic on the artillerist that he let me kill. Well, then I was up 24 to he only had 10 at this point, and we were contesting another one. But I knew with two relics up for mastery, he needed to get that other relic and kill something, or I was going to win on that round tiebreakers. And it caused him to need to come to me, be aggressive, and allowed me to then be reactive like Landrio wants to do. So yeah, I ended up winning that game 35 to 10. Would have been 45 to 10 with a few more seconds on the clock. And that's where we were at.
Yeah. I didn't say I think my master was like 38, 39. So like it was if we kept on playing it out, I think it was a foregone conclusion that I would have grinded him out and won. Like I said, I had to manifest in my hand. I just had, I was also like when I said I had all the answers, there's a moment where I cast a spell, he tried to counter it, I countered his countered. I mean, I literally just at that point in the game, I had everything. He also made the mistake of just firing off spells early to get damage on, and I had my priest online, I think turn two, and I didn't even gain the echo. I just started healing everything. So like completely negating spells that he was like burning with his resource and stuff. So yeah, just to kind of go into just how many answers and how resilient she is and how versatile the priest is really. All right, so we'll finish up round four here. You're 2-1. I'm 3-0. Ben with Thundersteps, the Milwaukee meta
Wait,
represent.
why don't I do my round first since
All
you
right,
had the finals, right?
go for it.
My round, I played Zach as well. He was, on Polynor, as we just heard. He did play very similarly to how he played with you. We had very spread out relics. He built a super protection heavy gun line, but I was able to build up a really, really strong fortress of, Laundrill control. I had Veil Piercer on Laundrill. And eventually, when we hit parity and it was 2020 with two relics on either side, I just picked off a small thing. And I knew then I think I had a Snapjaw on the Herald. And I was able to pick off a bodyguard or something for 2 points or 3 points or something. 2 points, I think, I think it was a big belly. And then I knew he had to come to me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he did. He had to slowly make his way there, and I just kind of um, moved things around with TKs, had the counter spells when I needed them, and I just kind of dismantled that gun line castle piece by piece. Um, and I can't remember. I think I ended up winning 57-10 or something like that, all said and done. So it
Hmm.
was, it was a really strong finish for the Landriel deck. Um, it's, if she gets set up, it's strong.
Yeah.
So I'll let
And
you. Uh,
just to comment, the last thing on the pawn, that is a way that I did not think about Palinor playing, which is a protection gun line, and it's an interesting idea. I think the thing I was afraid of is Palinor just running down your throat and applying so much pressure, getting to priests and stuff like that, and just starting picking off. So that the fact that he didn't play that kind of just like I still think Palinor is very strong into Landrill, and I want to play that matchup. It's
I
just
do
it
too.
was a
Yes,
different
maybe.
play style, right? I don't want people thinking like,
Yeah,
oh, Palinor is a pusher. You know what I mean? I think it was just how those two players played the Palinor matchups that is a little
yeah,
bit different than I think. And they'd never seen Landrill before, so of course they're gonna play it, not like that. But I think
yeah,
if you go into the game, understand what Landrill is trying to do, you need to just go down their throat and try to not attack Landrill, but attack everything else.
yeah. There's a window for aggressive list players out there. So your Polynors, your Vorndals, your Thunder Steps, potentially your Ingors or Oryx if they're built in a certain way. There is a window with the control builds in the first one, probably just 1 or 2 turns, maybe turn three if they have a really slow start with that control build. But those
Mhm.
first 2 turns, they're really building up what they can build up, and they're going to be low on echo. They're not going to have a ton of
Yeah,
responsive swift spells to keep you from killing their units. That's the window. If Polynor can open strong with his spells and really double channeling and shooting a bunch, he can just punk,
yeah,
a Landriel control list right out the gate in the first couple turns.
yeah.
So
If you
that's
are,
that's
if you
my recommendation.
if in the first 2 turns, if you're making the Landro player play Swifts like for shields or anything else like that, you're or counters, you're winning because she wants to build up her board. She does not want to be spending those spells early on.
Mhm.
So yeah, any pressure you can do to force her to shield, to counter spells or anything like that, that's a big win. Yeah, we'll jump into my round four. I played Ben again, Milwaukee meta. We were the only two representing. I think he won the April TTS tournament, and then, uh, well, one of us is going to win this. Spoilers, but yeah. So I was very nervous. Ben's a really good player, but my first game with the nuts opener of three priest and the angel, it was very strong. But I think arguably against Thundersteps and this aggro, I even opened a better hand, which was double priest, and then I had like two shields and a counter spell. So like I just literally had all the answers out the get go. Played double priest and Landrill. Uh, I think I only pick up one relic. Landrio grabs that. Both the priests just sit there and pray turn one. So I get up enough, and then turn two, I draw the Guardian and just drop the Guardian right next to Landrill, and I felt like I took a big breath. Like if you watch the recording, I like laugh, right? Just like how excited I am that I hit that. Um, Thundersteps had boots. He also picked up the Reaper's Edge boots, Scout's boots. So he's moving at 10 speed on the Pathways train. I was worried because I did this in the one game Zach had against me. I played Thundersteps into him because I think that he is also a strong matchup. That we knew we were going to see just based on how many people we heard playing Thundersteps at Madison. So I played him, and that game I did loop around and get to the priest playing Zach, and I think that is the correct way to play it. So I was very afraid that he was going to do that with Thundersteps. He chose not to do that, and he was going to. Also, a good move. Wait, he out activated me with like totems and a bunch of stuff, so he was making me burn all my activations, and his plan was to go in last with Thundersteps and do a bunch of damage, and then get the next activation. He would go first and then do more damage with Thundersteps, right? But that did give me time to begin walking my priests while praying away from Thundersteps on the opposite side. So I was kind of glad that happened there. And then he ended up trying to cast Unstoppable Rush. to get in the free charge and then two additional attacks, which would have been devastating, but thankfully I had the counter. Um, and then from there, it just kind of got more out of control. I bring down a shield mage. I duplicate on the shield mage. So Landrill is being hugged by 3 units with protection. Also, the relic that I flip up this game, there was nothing good. It was like the teleporting cape, the ring that cast spells, and there was like it was just bad relics like all around, and that's unusual because Landrill loves so many different relics in this game. The one I ended up taking was just from the top of the deck, and I even was like a little dejected when I draw it, was the Martyr one. Um, but I should have known better because I've definitely played this before and it's done work. And the Martyr one, which just gives regen to all your other units within 3 inches, as well as gives protection to Landrill, which I did not use, but later in the game, I like afterwards, I realized how strong that is. The regen relic ended up easily healing 30 health points throughout the game because I'm displacing all the damage, and like he's attacking my priest even at that point, so they're taking a little bit of damage. And then like every time I activate a model, it's just like oh regen two, regen two. So like easily 30 HP worth of stuff healed throughout just that one relic in the game. Um, and yeah, everything hugging Landrill. I eventually do kill Thundersteps. He does get a what is it? Die Hard? Not is it Die Hard? The one that prevents you from dying.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
he ends up doing Die Hard, and then he gets to go, and he is double swinging into my Guardian at one point. I think this is like turn 4, and he's hitting at 11s because he is berserked at this point, has Reaper's Edge, um, and then glancing at what is that 7. And so the first attack he does against the Guardian, he glances, does 7. I Renaissance guard it, which little inside joke. But I have like what do I have? I have 5 spells in the discard at this point, so it blocks 5. Resistance brings it down to one more, so 1 damage goes through, and then he hits again and does 11, and I Andropha shield it. And after that, he was like, "Did I just do 0 damage to you?" And I had to correct him, and I'm like, "You did 1 damage to me with a Berserking Thundersteps with Reaper." He kind of wanted to scoop at that point, but we ended up playing it out. Um, but yeah, he was very dejected, and because of that, I did feel bad a little bit. So I did kind of take my foot off the gas, kind of just going through the motions, making attacks, not really giving it like critic. Like I wasn't locked in at that point. It kind of just threw me off, and it did lead to a couple of minor misplays. There was a shaman that was kind of straggling behind, picking up relics and like kind of harassing. um, I should have definitely ran something to engage it, and because I didn't, he was able to redeploy things off of her, like Thundersteps and stuff. So just taking any unit and running and tying her up turns that off. He has to redeploy all the way by his deployment zone. Would have gone a long time, or taken a long time to get over. But yeah, I just eventually ended up grinding him out and picking up 3 relics, which was kind of the game. So I ended up winning, which is awesome. I did get this
Yay.
super woohoo, the super sweet trophy, which is Thunder Steps, but it is like I don't know 5 times the size of a normal model, so it is pretty sweet. I think I am actually going. I'm not much of a painter. I usually do like slap chop or something, and every once in a while I'll get inspired to try like actually painting. But I might give that one a go. And then, yeah, I also was a lucky winner of the one of the raffles. So Loot Studios provided some prize support. They sent over faction boxes for everyone. I did end up winning the Legion faction box here.
Well,
Um,
they sent 4 faction boxes
yeah, 4. That's what
for
I
the
meant.
event.
And yeah, I was one of the lucky winners to get one, but I should be getting my stuff from GameFound soon, so we'll have to figure out some kind of giveaway to do on the channel to kind of give back to the community. Um, and then kind of the last thing, just to recap, was throughout this whole event, all 4 rounds, I ended up losing 0 models to my Landrill. Zach, I think other than the game you lost, you also didn't lose any models, correct?
That's right. Yeah, I lost. I guess it would be 3 models total, and all 3 were in round 1.
Yep.
And then otherwise never lost a model again.
So yeah, very very hard to break the bubble essentially. But yeah, I think it was a success. Looking forward to doing more in the future. Met some really cool people. Um, I think it was great to meet people in person because I think it diffused some of the tension between some of us due to silly Discord disputes or whatnot. I think once we kind of met people in person, we realized everyone is just chill, and that helps a lot. And it's just kind of like a reminder to be kind to each other on the Discord, especially as we're all so passionate about the games and have different thoughts and stuff like that. I think it's hard to sometimes read intent through the Discord messages. But in person, I think that we all kind of realize that we're all just cool, and it's great that we can share this hobby together and all love Malediction. Yeah, and then the last thing, I think you kind of had a conversation with Salty C, one of the Minnesota guys, I believe, for potential like collaborations in the future. He has a YouTube channel, I believe. So
Yeah, the
looking forward to
Salty Sea.
that.
It's a war cry YouTube channel, and maybe they'll have some malediction content in the near future.
Cool. Do you have anything else to kind of
I don't. Congrats on your win, 4-0. Pretty
thank you,
sweet.
thank you.
And no, it was a great event. We had a lot of fun. Hopefully, there will be more in the future. Oliver did an amazing job hosting as TO, and yeah, looking forward to Madison Malediction 2.
Yes. All right. Until next time. Thank you, everyone.